Welcome to Chew on This and Nerds United podcast, and I'm here with a special episode that we didn't think we would get before the season premiere of Warrior dropped. That's right, season 3 is back, and after 2 years of trying to get this show back on, it was announced in 2021. I think we were announced that this show would come back. There was an online hashtag to save Warrior. Once it dropped on HBO Max, as it was called back then, HBO Max. I started watching this show, and I cannot believe that this show exists because the production value and the fight choreography alone. If you just like action shows, this is a show to watch. But the story and all the characters, and it's perfectly cast. And I cannot believe that we get Perry Young back. Father Jun himself is back for season 3. We're going to drop this episode on Monday, the Friday after. I think it premieres this Friday, right? The 29th?
Yes, this Thursday, actually.
This Thursday, right. This Thursday, We're going to drop it on Monday. Perry was awesome enough to give us the entire season 3 to review, and I cannot wait to watch it. But technical difficulties happened, but I'm actually really happy that I get to talk to Perry today without actually being spoiled about the season, and it's exactly what I'm going to do after this interview is over, is just binge. So Perry, thank you so much again for coming back on.
It's an absolute pleasure, Vic. Thank you for having me. And I just want to give credit to the HBO promo, the multicultural promo department, for making these screeners available. I wish I had the power to do that, but it's really up to them to decide because they don't pass it out to everyone. So I think that they respect what you're doing.
Yeah, they were really helpful with everything going on. It's kind of like one of those blessing in disguise. I was disappointed that I wasn't able to watch, but in a good way, where I wouldn't slip up during this recording to ruin the fact that I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who's out there, because
there's some really good stuff too. I mean, everything's a spoiler in this season. So
yeah, I can't wait. So before we get to that, there's things that I've been trying to get you back on, because there's so many things that you've been doing. And I want to talk about your 2 biggest projects in the past year. I think we spoke last year.
Right.
The first one I want to talk about is The Father Son, that released last year, I believe, right? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I've read about this, but I want to be able to give, before we get to Warrior, why we're here, I want to talk about your other projects and your other social fights that you're doing out there, which I absolutely love. So I want to talk about Father Son, then we'll get into the harvest and then your causes as well. And because I interviewed Irene, I want to talk about your marriage proposal.
I guess it depends on whose reality you're getting that from, but
right. But let's talk about A Father Son first.
Right. So yeah, you gotta go ahead, ask the question. Or
well, I just wanted you to talk about I unfortunately didn't know or follow your career before I watched Warrior, and then speaking to you, one of the things I said to Irene was that, my God, he's a great actor, because holy shit, as Father Jun, he is the baddest of bads there, other than Assam and Jun himself, young Jun himself. But I mean, there's other baddies too, but you are the patriarch of that, and the way that you are as Father Jun is so completely opposite of how you are personality wise, and that's, to me, that's like an amazing actor. So when I see you in other things, I'm blown away also, because of how far some of the things that you do are. Like, you could not be further away from Father Jun. I've actually encouraged you to curse on this show, and you won't curse like Father Jun does. So that's why I want to talk about that show.
Thank you for that fucking awesome compliment.
Perfect.
It's a gift. I feel like everything in this world is just an incredible gift, and I just bathe in these gifts. Father Jun, A Father's Son is a short film directed by Patrick Chen, based on a series of novels by Henry Chang, an OG Chinese American writer in New York City's Chinatown, who wrote a series of police novels based on a character called Detective Jack Yu. And it covers the Chinatown gangs in the 90s, 80s and 90s, and it's very, kind of like a noir era drama with, dark humor and, such a visual kind of a novel that they wanted to make it into a series. So this film, the short film, was sort of like kind of like what we call sometimes a proof of concept. We want to make this really beautiful short film so that it could be like the present. We could present it and sell it and show producers that this could be an excellent TV series. So that's what this was, and because of certain people related to Patrick, he was able to get like Ronnie Chang as the son. I play the father, and Tai Ma, is part of the other father actually. So it's a complicated little story in the film. We don't explain everything, but we want to just get everyone into it. But it's just Patrick's a great community organizer. He got almost every actor in Chinatown in the film just to walk on. We had Henry Yuk, who plays Long Z in Warrior, walk on for a short scene, and just all these people I've known for years, decades, just showed up for this film because it was a community film. It really represented our community, and there was a walk on with one of our most beloved community members, Corky Lee, who passed away during the pandemic. But so when we found out all these people were in it, everyone just wanted to be in it, and it's all for the love of the community. So Henry's book is all about casting a light on these denizens of Chinatown. Who are they? And the fact that I was given an opportunity to play one of these immigrants that are first generation. I speak Cantonese, and it was an opportunity, an incredible opportunity for me as an actor, because I'm in an American show, to actually speak Cantonese, because that's I've never had that opportunity. So when Patrick asked me to do it, I went, oh, I get to speak Cantonese. Wow, that's a whole other layer of practicing my craft, digging into my history, my personal history. And so it was just incredibly fun, to say the least. And then, of course, to meet Ronnie and hang out with Ty, and we all hang out afterwards. So I just saw Ty and Ronnie just last week when Ty was in town, because it created this bond over that film, and we've all three of us remained friends afterwards. So yeah, that's the father and son, and it's just incredibly cool again to have people in the community who want to do authentic art for the community without a sort of capitalistic goal at the end to make money or whatever. Um, I'm just grateful, and because of that opportunity, it's a huge responsibility. So I just dig in, and as an actor, I just did this reading for a Broadway show the other day, Broadway bound show, Farewell My Concubine, written by Kenneth Lynn of Warrior. And there's a line in it that they take from the original Farewell My Concubine movie. The king says, I think it's the king character that plays the king in Chinese opera, Beijing opera. He says, prostitutes are, I can't remember the exact quote, but society sees us the same. Prostitutes and actors were the same. So most actors will never, even my manager told me this, most actors will never get to act in a project that they truly believe in. So the fact that I get to do something like A Father's Son, Harvest, Warrior, I've already done things that most actors will never be able to achieve. Enjoy
especially Asian American actors, right?
100%, because those stories are so small compared to the numbers of non-Asian stories that are being produced by commercial avenues like Hollywood and things like that, and television. So the fact that it's an Asian story usually means it's an indie film. Like The Harvest is an indie film.
Right.
The Father and Son is an indie film, and Warrior was written by Bruce Lee because no one else was going to do it.
Right.
So yes, I'm just incredibly fortunate, and I think I don't take that for granted because I'm just going to dive in and give these characters that comes from these writers' heart and soul. I want to give it my heart and soul because it might be our one shot to tell the
Right.
world what we're made of.
Yeah, sadly,
Um,
that's how it still works.
yeah,
I always say like true diversity in Hollywood is not gonna. There's no real true diversity in Hollywood till like a woman director, a black director, an Asian director, a Latino director fails miserably, or a director or actor or writer just fails miserably and then gets another job immediately.
Absolutely. We don't get that chance. We fail
Right.
once and we're done, you know.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of black directors talk about that too. You know, when if their film fails, it's huge. Whereas a white director, they're
Yeah.
just going to get another job.
Yeah.
You
Like
know.
you can't tell me Michael Bay is a better director than Ryan Coogler.
Hmm.
You just
Yeah.
can't. You just can't. You can't tell me that he's a better director. You know, even Destin or Dust Cretton, I think his name is,
Yeah.
from who directed Shang-Chi and American Born Chinese. You can't
Right.
tell me, just based on the films that I've watched him do versus Michael Bay, that he's
Hmm.
not a better director already. You know, and
Absolutely.
so I want him to direct a Revenge of the Fallen Transformers movie,
Mm,
and then still, like, granted that movie got another sequel because it made a ton of money, but
absolutely.
but
Yeah.
it's not a better film by far. But
Absolutely.
so a Father Son was directed was shot on location, right, in Manhattan, in Chinatown.
Yeah, that was another one of the beautiful things about being in New York City is like, and these locations, Manhattan itself is a character,
Yeah,
right? It's a rich character. And so many people come to New York City to film because that gives your film so much clout and authenticity. It's like, if you're
yeah,
just walking down the street, I mean, the opening shots of, what is that? Saturday Night Fever, you know, of Travolta's feet walking down the sidewalk, and you pull back and you see Brooklyn. I mean, you can't buy, you know, like you can't make that up. It's Brooklyn, you
yeah.
know. And
Even
so, same thing with Spike Lee. He knows, you know, when
right,
brownstones and the vibe. It's like that's you know that's a major part of your film. So we shot in Chinatown. I mean, as we were filming, I was looking around, going, "Oh my God, I'm in heaven. I've made it." You know, you know, I wouldn't say that I'm financially successful as an actor, but in terms of just being happy, I've succeeded because I'm living the dream. I'm shooting this right in Chinatown,
right,
right on the streets, historical streets. You know, that angle we call Bloody Angle, where there was a lot of Tong wars and things like that, and gangs, you know, throughout the last century. So we're actually filming a film there about all of that with a contemporary statement, you know, coming from the community. It's like that's already a notch above what our the previous generation had done as artists, and you know, we're just standing on their shoulders. So you know, Wayne Wong and all of these other people that have paved the way for us to actually make these films now. It's you know, much gratitude to them.
I it's rare. It's very rare, but whenever Canal Street or parts of Chinatown, New York City are in film, I think I've mentioned that I was in New Jersey for 30 something years before I moved to California. And obviously, like, it's a lot more diverse where I am, but where I was in Jersey, I had to drive like over an hour to get like dim sum or a Chinese restaurant, right? And then early on, before we knew of the dim sum or real Chinese restaurants, like authentic Chinese restaurants in the area, we would drive all the way to New York City because my parents are originally from northern Jersey, and my dad drove a cab in Manhattan, so
Whoa,
he knows that area really well. Point being is that every time, like every weekend, we would go to Chinatown. Almost it felt like every weekend,
that's amazing.
and I can anytime parts or just a shot of Chinatown on Canal Street with that smoke that comes up in the early in the morning,
Hmm.
and you can smell the fresh produce, the fish, and New York City and the wet sidewalk
Hmm.
all forming this one pungent smell that you shouldn't like because it's not a good smell. But anytime I see it on screen, it reminds me of home, even though I'm from Jersey, but I remember, I just can picture, I can close my eyes and imagine walking down Canal Street and just smelling all the smells. And like when you can smell a place, that's home. And
Well,
so,
it's funny you say that. And I would say Canal Street is not a pretty, you know, it's not a fragrant smell.
no, it's not.
But it's an acquired smell.
Right,
And once you
right,
acquire it, it's heaven, and you know you're home. You know,
right.
it's the same thing with San Francisco's Chinatown. You know, when I first my second sublet in New York City after I'd been in when I moved here, I was sort of experiencing culture shock, and I just didn't, I didn't know how long I'd last in Manhattan. And then I found a sublet right on Canal Street. And as soon as I smelled that smell and walked into a store, you know, and the woman at the store said in Cantonese, "Hey, brother, is that all you? Is that all for you today?" I went, "Oh my God, I'm home."
Right, right.
You know, like I didn't ask for this, but Chinatown was there for me. And
Yeah,
right that moment, I went, you know what? Now I'm in a new city. It's no longer, I'm no longer experiencing the culture shock. I'm home.
right.
It's quite amazing what Chinatown can provide for
It,
somebody who grew up in Chinatown.
what's so crazy is that we have completely different lives, completely different paths. But because you've been to Chinatown and grew up in Chinatown, and I used to go there every weekend on my childhood, because back then Toys R Us didn't carry those Asian toys, right? I There was that, I don't know if I forget the name of the place, but it's this one part, obviously off Canal Street, where there was a toy store on the left hand side, and it was right down the street from the corner where that ice cream place was with the green dragon sign.
Mhm, mhm,
That toy store is closed down now, but
mhm,
I don't know if you know what Voltron is,
mhm.
but that's
Yep.
where I had to go to get my
Whoa.
Voltron toy. Like all my Japanese or Asian
Mhm.
toys that I got are all from that store. Now
Right.
you can get them, on Amazon, you can order them overseas, but back then that was the only place I knew to get anime toys.
Mhm, mhm.
Only place I knew. So I got Voltron. I was the only one in my neighborhood too, because I was like in suburban America, where like, white neighborhood all around, and all of my friends watched Voltron, but Voltron wasn't in Toys R Us.
Right, right.
So I would go into Chinatown to go get dim sum on weekends and go to this toy store every weekend. It was
It's they may have moved to Elizabeth Street. So
Oh, okay,
Elizabeth Street
okay.
has a huge anime, toy store, and I actually was looking for an Ultraman mask
Oh, okay.
last week, and I went, that I'm going to go there to get it because I knew I wasn't going to find it anywhere else.
Right, right. Yeah.
So yeah,
But like
yes,
our backgrounds are different, but we've probably all like you've been to that ice cream shop, right? With the green
still
dragon there.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm positive we've eaten at all the dim sum places, the same
Hmm.
places, even ones that have already closed down because of COVID, which is
Right,
sad. There was that
right.
one place that was upstairs. It was like a giant banquet hall. I forget the name of it. And then like you've been to Chinatown, or at least part of the culture, when you've shared a table of dim sum with people that you don't know
Totally.
on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, where it's like packed and there's nowhere to eat, but there's a table of 10 and two families of four.
Mhm, mhm.
Right?
Yep,
Right?
yep, or 3 couples, or something like that,
Right.
and that's the amazing thing about the culture of Chinatown, right? Is like, and Cantonese culture of dim sum is, like, non-Chinese would accept that. I'll sit at this table with strangers, but if you're gonna go outside of Chinatown, probably very few people would sit at a table with a stranger.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen at like a Wendy's or like an Olive Garden.
Right, right. I mean, those are the things that just makes me like love where we are today as an Asian American storytellers. That we can actually tell those stories. We can share our culture in a broader, bigger, broader way with more support than ever before. So I think because of like within the last 15 years, especially after the big rom com, Crazy Rich Asians, it kind of blew open the doors, where there's so many more people behind the scenes, and the indie filmmakers supporting and basically telling our stories because there was a hunger for new content. When all the streaming services popped on, it was like, you know what? There's a lot more people that want different content than before. So let's invest in that. And that got us here today, partly. Um, it leads me to the harvest, with when Duan Moore, the writer who played Spider in Clint Eastwood's Gran Torino, um, saw how popular that movie was, but then he couldn't audition for another role. Afterwards, he went, "What's going on here? I was just in this huge Clint Eastwood movie, blockbuster. This was before streaming, really, and people had to go to the theater to see this, and like." There's my phone's not ringing off the hook, which would be a very different story if he was a Caucasian actor.
Right.
It'd be a very different story. So he he set out to write his own film because he thought, at least if when I finish the script, there'll be something I could do. I can act in my own movie. So, it took him like 10 years to from the start of writing that script to getting it greenlit and shot. And so when Doa offered me the role, I said, and I read the script, it was just like gold. It was, the words were shimmering off the pages, and I went, "This is the stuff we've been waiting for." This is the moment where I get to see this and go, "I want to tell the story. I know the story so well, and nobody has done this before."
Right.
And you were talking earlier about playing these roles that are very different from me. I play the father, right? A Hmong father who had served in the secret war in Vietnam and brought to America and was disillusioned and betrayed by both governments, and then dying of liver cancer. I mean, well, actually, I can't give away too much,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
like,
that's not.
how am I gonna play that guy? I don't know him, but I know that I want to bring um, dimension and authenticity and empathy to an Asian elder because
Right.
they need the face. They need that can help our culture, that can help America in general, is to like show them who we are, show them that we're people. We're not just these one-dimensional faces that our ex-president Trump can put a target on and say they're the problem. we
Right.
we need a voice. I need to give them a voice. So when I was given that opportunity, it was really a special moment for me to go, okay, how am I going to approach this role? I have my own way of working already, but I really want to find a new way to work so that I can really experience and investigate this role and learn more than I've ever done from a character, from the words on the page.
So tell me
So
a little bit about that process for you. How did you approach this differently than say, because I'm going to guess that you have more in common with a father in this era than you do with Father June, and they could not be completely more different characters. So what about, like, what was your process different from here than say preparing for a role like Father June? Like, I'm pretty sure for Father June you have to go some, I'm guessing you have to go to some dark places maybe.
I do. And those are places I've gone to before because I've studied Chinese American history so long that those dark places um, manifested even before I was an actor, because it was like, okay, this is how do I deal with this stuff, because now I know, right? I have knowledge of racism, systemic racism. What do I do with that? So if you're an artist, you get to release that kind of stuff, right, through your arts. I was fortunate to have been given the role of Father June, so I could release that stuff. But in this role with the Hmong father, there really was no way to release it, in the same way, because it was pent up. The father doesn't know why he behaves that way. Father June knows why he behaves that way, but the father in the harvest has this sort of trauma that's swept under the rug, right? So like I really don't know that kind of trauma because I've been dealing with uh, using art to release that all my life. So to try to be a person that didn't understand how to connect with trauma and release it was something I had to investigate. And also, I just read the script over and over again because I wanted to truly get into understanding what Dua wanted to say, because it's such an authentic script. It's such a rich story that we haven't heard before. I mean, I think anyone who sees the movie will identify with all of the family aspects of this movie, the family dynamics, and how we each are trying to carve and find our own space within this close knit nuclear family, struggle with each other, yet love each other and accept each other's issues. So I just read the script over and over again and tried to like find ways that me, Perry Young, could sort of identify truly and honestly, authentically, without acting, without going, oh, I think I know what that is, and I think actors would do this in that situation. I tried to dig deep and find authenticity so I wouldn't have to think about it when we started shooting, so that it was just there because it's in me. Um, and it was one of the most challenging roles I've ever done, and most rewarding at the same time. Um, I would just say that I hope that distributors with vision will see this film and go, I know what this film can do for society. I think we should distribute it. You know,
Right.
because it's one of those, kind of specialized stories that I think some distributors are afraid of it, are afraid of things that seem specialized when actually it's not specialized. It's very human. We
It's very
all
American.
exactly, and it's not just American. It's all cultures. Well, America is all cultures. Well,
Right.
right. So it's all cultures, and really looks at a part of American culture that and an immigrant American family to say that actually that's what an immigrant American family has to deal with, sort of the old culture trying to assimilate into American the younger culture, and how where that clash is, and how they could try to find love and a way forward within those really deeply carved um things emotionally that we might not be able to get over. But
One of the things that you said about that struck me is authenticity. And in preparing for this interview, even though we've talked before, I've been trying to get to be able to watch this movie. I know that distribution is a little bit difficult when dealing with independent movies, which I completely understand. But when you're talking about authenticity and how you bring that to the table, I just want to talk about this one picture here because
mm,
for me, growing up, and you too, there's four Asians in this screenshot, right? And but what makes it authentic to me is what they're sitting around.
mm, right.
Is the things that stuck out to me of a lot of Asian American films in the last 5 years are the things that nobody picks up on, right? Like in this multi-million dollar movie of Shang-Chi, it's a comic book Marvel movie. Things that stuck out to me the most was when Shang-Chi, or at that point Sean, went over to Katie's place, and for breakfast they're eating juk, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Right. They're just eating breakfast normally, not making anything about it. Just that's what they're eating. And the same thing with American Born Chinese. I don't know if you've
But
gotten to watch that show
did,
yet.
I did, yep.
There's all the dinners that they have there, the little tiny things, right? And in this picture right here, I immediately go to the food and say, okay, all this stuff is real Chinese and
Mhm,
stuff that you would never find. Like half of this stuff looks like you would never find it on a menu. And I know
absolutely.
exactly what that is. And it just adds to like all like I think that's why like Black Panther resonated so well, because there's things that we never saw before that we could resonate with that culture. And for me, anytime I see Asian Americans on film, I want to see what they're eating.
Absolutely. It is such a huge part of Asian culture. Food and knowing how to eat is a huge part of Asian culture. When I was growing up, some of my non-Asian friends were like, "Oh, my mom can't cook," and I was like, "Oh my God, I feel so sorry for you," you know. And then they don't know what to order, they don't know what to eat, they don't know how to enjoy food, right?
Right, right,
But if your mother, like all my Asian friends and fathers, know how to cook, and
right.
they know about food, and
My
they
dad didn't know how to cook. My dad doesn't know how to cook.
but he knew how to drive a cab.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. He he
But
he drew he went against that stereotype.
let me tell you what when you talk. I'm glad you pointed out that food, and I just wanted to make a kind correction. It's Hmong, right? The Hmong food
Yeah.
in this table. He had a Hmong chef, the best Hmong chef in LA, that had a very successful food truck that everyone went to who were Hmong knew his food truck. He was on set cooking the food for us, cooking that food. And there was another tape scene where
Who got I gotta ask, who got to eat it? Who got to eat it
oh,
after
we
the scene
did.
was
We all
over?
totally, as we were filming it, instead of how some people like, I'm actually a lot of actors when they're shooting a dinner scene, they chew and there's a buckets and they spit it out, and
Right, right,
another
right.
take they chew. We ate the food. I mean, it was so good.
Because that's like the cardinal sin. You have to match the take every time.
Yep,
So if you
yep,
take a big bite of something, the rule is you need to take a big bite every single
yep,
time. And so,
yep.
like, I listen to a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and I listen to the Office ladies, the podcast about the Office, and they said early on, Angela, the person who plays Angela, whose name in real life is Angela, she made the cardinal sin of eating a big, I think, a piece of ice cream cake. Either it was her or Michael, and they cannot, because of that one day of shooting, they can no longer eat ice cream cake
Oh,
because they
oh.
ate it all day.
Yeah, yeah, no, there's a bucket. The prop person is always like, "You want a bucket?" You know, because if you're shooting that all night long and you do take a bite, you can't keep eating, right? That same bite. And there was a question. I think somebody said, "Well, how many chicken wings do we have?" Because I'm going to be taking. And that chef was like, "We got buckets of chicken wing. Don't worry about it." You know what I mean? Because I got to have the same chicken wing every
Right,
time.
right,
You know?
right.
So yeah, that's the kind of authenticity that went into this film, The Father's Son. And I'm sorry that you
Oh,
can't
The
get to
Harvest,
see
right?
it.
The Harvest.
I'm sorry, The Harvest. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Um, I'm sorry that it wasn't available for you to view because it is really, I think, a really special viewing experience. And after I saw it, I was just, I was patting myself on the back because I think it's one of the best roles I've ever done for a film, and I truly hope that it can get distributed. So
Well, I hope it does too, and I hope I get to see it sooner than later. I hope you guys are up in Sacramento at some point too. Whenever you're back on the West Coast, we'll have to try to get together, especially when you're in San Francisco.
yeah, yeah. Is there a film festival in Sacramento?
I don't know if there is one. There's one that's independent, like independent, like smaller than like the film circuits I think that you're at. But
Okay.
there is a Sacramento film group here that I belong. Not I don't
Uh,
belong to it, but I do follow. Um,
it did screen at Cam Media, which is San Francisco's oldest
yeah,
film festival. So it probably won't go back to San Francisco, but it might go near Sacramento, hopefully.
yeah. Next time you got stuff like that, let me know because we
Mhm.
our listenership is in this whole Bay Area. So let us know so
Great.
we can post it. So I'm so happy you were able to talk about all that stuff. I know people are here to listen to one thing, but before we get to Warrior, I need to ask you about your marriage proposal. So, Irene told me that she proposed to her husband, her now husband. What she told me that I didn't know was that your wife proposed to you too.
Yes.
So I told her I would ask you on the show the next time we got you on. So how did that go? And how is your this society tells us that the man has to ask, but that didn't happen in your case. It didn't happen in her case. So I just wanted to know from your perspective. I understand and appreciate everything that Irene told us about her thinking about marriage and all that stuff. So I want to get the guy's side of you on what happens when you're on the receiving end of a marriage proposal.
Well, it's quite complex and nuanced what you're talking about, right? There's so much involved in terms of who the people are, for one thing, not just gender, but what's the history of these people? What is the history of like me as a Chinese American man, and the history of my wife, who's half Vietnamese, half Irish, product of the Vietnam War, and all those things play a huge part into how that proposal happened, um, I am an artist. I never thought. I always knew I was an artist. I always knew that I was going to be like sort of singular in my own thinking, that I didn't fit into what everybody else wanted from society. A lot of my friends growing up, wanted a car right away and was thinking about a job where they could buy a house. The American dream. And by the time I was 16 or 17, I knew that's not what I wanted. I knew I wanted to live in New York City and be an artist. So I just spent 10 years trying to figure out how to get to New York City from that age. I A lot of my friends, as I was moving to New York City in my early 20s, were already buying houses, and I was like, I'm a solo artist, this might be my life. Um, I had, relationships, and they ended because they're like, what, you're moving? What about me? I'm like, do you want to come? And they're like, so anyway, I made it to New York City, and it was just the most amazing thing because it's like I met so many artist couples, and they were kind of my role models. And very few of these artist couples had children, because they were like art is their children, and I just thought it was a solo, it's going to be a solo trip for me. And when I met Mora, my wife, she was an artist, a dancer, and she also said, I never want to be married. I don't want kids. And I was like, great, this is perfect. We're just going to be this artist couple, like many of our friends who are artist couples who don't have children because we do our work. Um, and then one day, I mean, so we've been together for like maybe 4 or 5 years, no, 4 years. and I was visiting her home with her parents, and we were like at New Year's morning at a beach, and I was with her parents, and I think Irene was there, and we were just looking at the water, and then Mora just came up to me with a handful of shells. She's like that she got off the beach, and she got on her knees and said, "Will you marry me?" And I was like quite shocked because we both said thought we'd never be married nor want to be married. But as an artist, I thought in that moment, it's life is about exploring everything you can that life offers you. Is to not deny yourself of experiences that you can have. As an artist, you should have all the experiences that you want. So I never thought I'd be married. Like, what the heck? If I don't marry someone now, I'll never have that experience. And, she was cool enough for me to want to hang out with for a long time. So I accepted. And Mora's family comes from, they were raised from Irene's mother and all of them, seven kids total, raised by a very strong mother who escaped Vietnam, and carved out a whole life for herself. And she knew that anything that she wanted, she had to get for herself because those things were denied to her in that culture in Vietnam.
Yeah, her mom's
So,
story is insane.
right, right. So, and inspiring, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, no matter what, you just have to like dig into yourself and tell yourself, this is what I want and this is how I'm going to do it. And I don't know, does that match Irene's version of
It
reality?
it does, and she also said that I have an open invitation to one of your get-togethers because she told me a story about her mom's spring rolls,
Oh,
uh, and
incredible.
how they're so good that her ex-boyfriend in college went over there and instead of trying to have breakup sex, had egg rolls or spring rolls from her mom instead. So it's this ongoing joke with her that her mom's egg rolls or spring rolls are so good that they're better than breakup sex. So
It's
uh
pretty incredible. I think her mom knew that wooed all her siblings partners with her cooking in some
oh,
ways.
well, that's
It's
pretty
kind of like
amazing.
if
Yeah.
you come over, oh Perry, oh here's your favorite, and it's like, oh my God, this is great. You don't
Right.
get that kind of home cooked Vietnamese food
Oh
anywhere.
God. Yeah.
Just and then she didn't just single me out, especially, but every one of her kids, her offspring's partners had a favorite dish that she'd cook, when they came over, and so she was like, I want to make sure that my kids get good partners.
She says her mom's still mad about it. That
Oh,
that he broke up with her but still came over to have the spring rolls. That
she was
had
like,
her
all
food.
that investment she did
Yeah,
into
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so I know we only wow, we talked about a lot of other stuff other than why we came to talk in the first place because everything else is so interesting to me.
Mm,
Like I said, I've before Warrior the season premiere announced, I was like, you got to come back on because there's other things I want to talk to you about too. But I wouldn't be doing our show justice if we didn't talk about Warrior.
right,
My
right. It's a
God,
special thing, such a
I,
special thing.
oh my God, I cannot wait. Like I said, I'm it's a little bittersweet that I was able to do the show without watching that show, but I'm kind of happy because I knew I would spoil the crap out of it by accident. I mean, literally in the screener, there's something that they tell you don't spoil. I won't say
Mm,
the episode number. I won't say anything, but in the screener itself, it says don't spoil this thing.
hmm.
So I guess the first question I got to ask is, I think we talked to you after the show was approved for season 3 to come back on, and I don't think you had started shooting yet.
Wow.
But my God, to be part of something like this, right? But then to be part of something where the fans are like, no, 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 no. You're not canceling this show. You're bringing it back. And here's how many
Mhm.
people want to watch it. Because I got to tell you, honestly, I've been part of shows where, or not part of shows, but been part of like fandom where I'm like, you got to watch this show. It's amazing, right? Like Firefly is one of those shows,
Mm.
but also fuck Joss Whedon. Um, but I've never been in this day and age where I was like, I'm telling you, you have to watch a show. It's canceled, it's bullshit, but you gotta watch. Every single person that I have spoken to who actually took my advice became part of this like hashtag movement where they're like, oh my God, I cannot believe HBO or Cinemax at that point canceled this show because it's literally the best show I've ever watched on TV. It's
Wow.
got romance, it's got drama, it's got family issues, and the fight scenes. And oh my God, the first. So sorry, that's a long winded question to ask. Way to ask. What was it like to be part of like an actual phenomenon that was brought back by the internet?
It's pretty mind blowing. It is a phenomenon that's rarely ever happens in television. You know, when a show gets canceled, it's canceled. It's not coming back. I mean, there's a couple of rare examples, like maybe Cobra Kai or something. That was originally a YouTube thing, or
Right,
was
but
it?
that was a
You
spin-off of a 80s cultural phenomenon, right?
right, right.
Warrior, even though it's written by Bruce Lee, it was stuck on Cinemax, right?
Hmm.
And we all know what Cinemax is known for. I mean, the nickname is
Right,
called Skinemax, right?
right.
Yeah, they've had some good shows like Dexter,
Hmm.
but Dexter was one of their like premier
Hmm.
premier shows. Warrior, I felt like didn't get its due when it was on Max. Nobody really knew about it, obviously, until it
Hmm.
hit HBO Max streaming,
Right.
right? So this isn't one of their shows that everybody knew about, and it wasn't even like a network show like Firefly. This was on
Hmm.
cable television, and for people to rediscover this show that nobody really watched, unfortunately, when it was first premiering, and to
Hmm.
bring it back in such a way, like I don't know anybody who are our followers. I mean, there's plenty of followers on our page that I have been singing praises for the show. I mean, I left a banner up there for Save Warrior for months and months and months until it was finally saved. That people were actually like, "Oh my God, I just started watching the show. It's amazing. I cannot believe I never watched it." I mean, this is
It,
crazy
it
for
is
for, for this
crazy.
kind of show to happen.
It is crazy because by the time when season two was beginning to air, I think HBO knew that it was being sold, and so they were like, "We can't put money into publicizing it," because even season one had some billboards in LA, and I
Yeah.
saw it on buses in New York City. Season two had nothing because it was already sold. It's dead. They thought it's dead. There's no reason to present it. And I think there's a bit of racism in there, these decision making, but once season two aired on HBO Max, I was instantly recognized on the street, which was like, whoa, and then the numbers on my social media, grew like exponentially right away, and people were DMing me, like asking Father June, not just you, but people were saying, "Hey, amidst this pandemic, you're the only thing that's light. That's light. In this dark moment of our society, we're getting attacked. But Warrior shows empowered Asian people.
Hmm.
Asian, like you guys are fighting the system. Like you're the only thing I can watch right now, and thank God for this show because otherwise I'd be so depressed. I mean, that was just numerous DMs were saying that, and then people were also asking if Father June can make these public statements about you know the anti-Asian hate and violence that's happening. They saw Father June as a leader, a voice of that can actually, you know, lead. I guess in this time in reality, what was so I just felt okay, now I can, again, like I said earlier about marriage, this opportunity exists and I'm able to wear a different hat and play a different role in real life and actually speak out in front of it, behind the art. I used to use my art as my um, activism. I was an artivist. Now, in this moment of the pandemic, when I'm stuck at home and everyone's seeing all these news reports of violence, and they need some kind of a voice of reason or guidance. If they want it in me, I need to step up. If I
Yeah.
can provide that sort of, relief in some ways, I should step up. I just had to figure out how to do it. I stumbled a bit, and I'm still stumbling. I think I'm still trying to figure it out.
Right.
But it's an opportunity for me to grow and to help my community um, at the same time.
It does help when a fresh onion punches the duck in the face.
To put it lightly, that does it right there, right?
It does help. I mean, the first 10 minutes when Assam comes off the boat or what the bus or whatever he's on, I think it's a boat, right? Yeah, it's a
It's a
boat.
bullet, right?
And that one duck just mouths off to him, and he beats the shit out of two of them or three of them. I'm like, I was hooked instantly. I was hooked.
Absolutely, because at that moment, we've been seeing images of people attacking Asians,
Right.
right? And then to see that flip, it
Yeah.
was empowering.
I was so disappointed when I found out when I watched the show. I'm like, what do you mean the show only has 2 seasons? Like I always try to take my Asian out of stuff.
Mm,
Because like I don't want to be that biased thing that says me and BJ have always said this one thing, which is I don't care if our show hits it big. We just want to be like how you said we want to be authentic. If it
mm,
sucks, it sucks, right?
mhm,
If it's not good, if it's not good. And so we try to stay positive on things, but we figured we'd never sell our souls
mm.
to we'd never sell out if something isn't good,
Right,
right?
right.
And I remember texting BJ. I'm like, dude, you need to watch this show because you can't tell me in the first 5 minutes of this show that you're not hooked. And that's
Mhm,
happened quite a few times
mhm,
where we watch something and we text each other and say, you need to watch this show. I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't understand. When we say no, 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 you need to drop everything and watch the show. And that's what Warrior was. And we couldn't believe that this show got canceled. Like we say a lot of things on the internet, like we over exaggerate to get clicks or shares and stuff like that. But I'm telling you right now, man, Perry, I'm so happy that the show is back.
Yeah, I mean, you are not alone. If you look at all the social media and all the fans that are saying on these, there's a couple of Facebook warrior pages.
I belong to him. Yep, I belong to him.
There's a whole handful of IG warrior fans pages. They're all like, "How many times have you watched season 1 and 2?" And everyone's like, "Oh, I've watched it over 20 times." So it's like, it's a soothing thing to just put on and watch over and over again.
I've watched it 4 times all the way through, but I've watched certain things many times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The fight with Assam at that one underground, almost like a Kumite type looking
Yes.
thing. Um,
Yes.
I've seen
Yes.
that fight plenty of times. Oh, the attack on Chinatown.
That's brutal,
Oh
right?
my god, I love that one where the ducks come into our home territory.
Mhm, mhm, and it was
Uh,
such a kung fu moment when you have the rival gangs come to fight the big gang.
oh my
That moment,
god.
it was so kung fu. It
When
was
oh
so
yes,
Run Run
yes.
Shaw back in the days of Run Run Shaw when you had these two factions come together to fight the bigger oppressor, and it was one of those moments where this is what we need to do. Come together in solidarity.
Yeah, yeah. Oh god, that was so good. That God, I got spoiled because I watched it not how it is now, and obviously I'm going to be spoiled again because you guys were kind enough to give us season 3. But I couldn't even imagine watching that being broken up week by week
No, right,
because I
right.
got to binge it all in one shot. But man, if that ended the way it ended and I had to wait,
Mhm,
well, I mean,
mhm.
I guess I've had to wait from season 2 to season 3, right?
Right, right. Oh my
So
god, and what a wait. What a
oh
wait. And the
god,
fans were still there and they grew, they
oh,
anticipated
they've
it,
so grew.
right?
I think me alone, just by friends alone, I've told 5 people. I've told 5 people, and all 5 people have watched, and all 5 people cannot wait for the premiere.
Mm,
And
mm,
that's just my friends. I don't know how many followers have done that.
right.
I'm guessing more than 5, but just my close friends alone, I've gotten people hooked on this show. People that you wouldn't think would
Thank you.
watch a kung fu show, right?
Right,
Because
right.
essentially it's a kung fu show, but it's more than that.
It's way more than that. I mean, earlier with all the list that you gave about why the show is great, right? With drama, romance, choreography, fight choreography, action. It's also great acting, right?
Yes.
The actors are so great, like in dramatic acting, and the historical aspects, the historical truths of the incidences. That attack on Chinatown, right? That was just one event of one Chinatown of many Chinatowns that were razed, that were burned to the ground, where the Chinese were evicted, and just basically they wanted to get rid of Chinatown. Like the biggest one was Los Angeles Chinatown in 1887, I think, where it was one of the largest mass lynchings in America. Those are things that we don't know about. That's
Yep.
never been televised and told on
Or
television.
or taught.
Exactly. So when I read that in a script, season 2, I wasn't in the scene, but I had to go watch the filming because it was historical for me. It was like, this is our roots moment.
Alright, so the good thing about it again is that I haven't seen it. So I haven't seen season 3 at all. I want to ask you questions, but I know you can't spoil anything too. So let's talk about the family aspect of it because it looks like from all everybody's Instagram pictures, no matter if you're a duck or an onion, no matter what it is, You guys look like you guys are having a blast coming back and doing this thing. What was the overarching like, tone when you guys all came back knowing full well because you guys released that amazing video,
Mm,
that amazing video to announce that season 3 got picked up, right?
hmm.
But obviously that was during the pandemic. Everybody's in different houses. What was it like first day on set for you?
Oh
And
my God. Oh my God. It was, I mean, uh, don't want to give away anything, right? Like, but
yeah, just talk
it
about the
it
behind the
really is
scenes.
it really is a family. Actually maybe stronger than family because we somehow are bound by the love of the craft and the story and our work, and um we're lucky to be there to tell the story of our biggest hero, right? Like everybody who's there, even the Caucasian actors were like, Bruce Lee's my biggest hero when I grew up. So it's amazing to be here, continuing, given the honor and the responsibility to continue his legacy. So it was really like we were bound by that sort of like privilege, and um, so to see each other again, and actually we all love each other's work. When I watch the when I watch Warrior, I'm so in love with the actors because I know they're nothing like that in real life, and I just watch them on screen going, oh, he's so good. Oh, he's so good because that's not him. He would
Right,
never
right.
do that in real life. And so just to be around these people who have spent their lives digging into their passion and their work to tell stories, I mean, gives us a certain kind of, you know, um, camaraderie, I think, and just familia. We just feel like so close. And then the tone is set by the showrunners, Jonathan Tropper, the writers, Shannon Lee, Justin Lin. They love the show, and they're the light of the show. They guide us, and because of their energy and their vision, and the blood, Shannon Lee's blood is like, we can't mess this up, so it's a family getting together, that's even better. I would say better than you choose these people in some ways.
One of my favorite, like besides your character, obviously there's a lot of characters in the show that are either racist or gang members, right? Like basically nobody really in the show is a good person, right?
Right.
Right. Essentially, nobody is really a good. Maybe.
Maybe
Uh,
Tom tries to be
oh,
Tom Weston Jones, who plays the uh,
oh, right,
Robert
but he,
Lee.
but he's killed people before.
Yes, yes,
Like
yes.
everybody's maybe maybe Nellie's pretty a good person, right?
Nelly, right, right. Nelly
Right.
is actually a good.
Mrs. Blake, I forget her first name.
Yeah, Miss Blake, who's Penny.
Yes, yeah, maybe
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
a
Penny.
pretty decent person, but outside of that, everybody's pretty much like have committed murder at some point, right?
The guys,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
it's
even the
like,
women. I mean, how
yes.
badass is like Olivia
Oh,
Cheng's character?
oh, right, right, right.
I mean, she's I love her. First of all, she doesn't get enough praise. Whoever your costume designer is
Mm.
needs to get praise for all the costumes, but what
Mhm,
she does with a toys costumes
mhm,
are
mhm.
amazing.
Yep, yep. I mean, I think they can have a Vogue spread just on Diane and Olivia, the
Oh,
women of
right.
Warrior, I
Yeah.
was joking at one time that they should have a GQ, because spread on the men because like how where like the Versace gang,
Right, right, right. Yeah, your
you
suits
know,
look great, but the
right?
women's outfits, like
Beautiful
especially
job.
Olivia and Joan, not Joan,
Diane's on.
Diane,
Yeah,
yeah, she Diane Doan's character Mei Ling, her
yeah.
outfit and a toys outfits are gorgeous.
Yes,
Like,
they spent time. They definitely spent time, and we they keep talking and they keep honing it as they watch it, and as the seasons develop, as they keep shooting, they go, oh, I need to make changes, because they see it on the screen
right,
and they know how it plays and they feel it, right? They feel the episode and they go, okay, I need to make changes. So you could actually, if you compare from season one, episode one, how much of their clothing has changed, it's because they're constantly watching and changing and making it better. And that's, they're not skimping on the art direction, the makeup, the hair, the costuming. They really got their eye on the production design, and that's part of the one reason why we filmed in South Africa is because the labor's cheaper, and we get more. The HBO gets more bang for their buck, right? So we have these really talented designers, and they can work harder and longer to make our show look so good on a shoestring budget. Because if you have American shot show, you would never get it looking this good,
Hmm.
and I don't want, and in some ways it's kind of exploiting the labor there, but HBO has a deal with the South African Cape Town government to, I think it's called like the Better Business Bureau. It's a grant that they give money to Black and people of color. They call them colored people over there. So if you're Chinese or Asian, you're a colored person, and or you're Black, Black African. Um, there's money, government grants, just to help them get ahead. So it's like their affirmative action, but their government actually is actively doing that, and because they understand the problem that apartheid caused, right? The inequities of apartheid. So as a government and everybody's on board, we need to change that. America still hasn't addressed that, So so with HBO going there, we have to hire Black and colored people into positions where they're trained technically to be, like filmmakers. They handle the lenses, they handle the cameras, they mic people up, they handle the lights, they do things that train them to be, uh, talented individuals that can work in the industry regardless of where you are, Hollywood or London or Atlanta. So that was part of what HBO was bringing with us, is to train people that are
Mm,
non-white.
right, right. Does that tell me about the tell me what's different about this set versus a set that wasn't brought back by the internet? I mean, it- I wish I was a fly on the wall the first day you guys came back, or
uh,
the text chain that might be happening where you're just talking to each other and saying, "Can you believe this freaking thing is happening? Like, can you believe the internet brought us back?" Like, I mean, I've seen it happen before with other shows, but I don't. We're a small rinky dink podcast. I don't get to talk to people who are part of a movement like that. Like,
yeah.
what was that like on, you're in your makeup chair. Who's the first person you see on set the first day back?
Yeah. My first day back is, I would say, I walk into the training center with Brett Chan, right? Because everyone's training together, where they do all the fight choreography, and you see Assam and Lee Young and Dean Jagger and Langley, like everybody is, Olivia and Diane also, and Young Jun. We go there to train. It's amazing. And we see each other training and we're laughing. We're like, can you believe this? And everybody's like, I just never thought this was, it's like we're living a dream. The
Yeah.
fact that we're here again, it's just a dream because it never happens. And we thank Jonathan Tropper, was still kind of hounding HBO, saying, hey guys, I know the cast well, they'll come back, just offer them the contract. And so he was constantly dangling that carrot, and all the fans that were pushing for it and signing the change.org. And there was a community group, Chinatown Organization for Media Awareness, who took out a full page ad in the Hollywood Reporter saying, hey, if HBO truly wants to support Stop Anti-Asian Hate, Renew Warrior. That's calling HBO out saying, Renew Warrior if you really want to like help. And all of that did it. So it really is about the work of the village. It takes the whole village to do this. It wasn't just one person. It wasn't just one group. It took the everybody's heart and desire to build this momentum, to put it on the table of HBO and say, we want this to happen. Look at that hate out there. This can combat hate. Let's do it. And Casey Beloy, the head of HBO at that moment, said, let's do it. It was amazing.
So I know I only have you for an hour, so let me ask you one last question, because how did you find out? Like, were you sent a text message, an email? Like, how did you find out, and where were you when you found out?
Um, I was in my hold up quarantine location in Rhode Island, and I got a text from Jonathan Tropper, the showrunner, who wrote Banshee and all that show. He said, "Are you available to do a WhatsApp? I think I want to talk about something like the future of Warrior." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I think he had before, and even before he did that, he had created the whole chat group of all of the Warrior production, like people, like Brett Chan, the stunts person, and Shannon, and it says something like Warrior season 3 chat. And this is, before we even had that. We went, wait, what? What? We just saw the chat name of the chat group.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like your heart started suddenly thumping, going, whoa, 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 I'm about to pass out. Let me sit down. What's going on here? It was just like a shock. It's like the earth moved. And Jonathan, are we all can we all do a Zoom chat? And this was so impromptu. It wasn't even like 3 days from now or when's everyone's
It
schedule
was
free. It
just
was like
right
now,
now.
now,
Wow.
and everybody's like, bing, bing, bing. I'm in, and bing. It was just like, I'm in. Everyone's like, I'm in. And he goes, okay, guys, I just talked to Casey Bloys, and he said it's a possibility if you guys will come back with the same contract, like not a raise, a huge raise, and everybody's hands went up, like I'm in. So it was one of those moments, and then that's when JT said, okay, let me like, I'm going to take this to them. Hold tight. You know what I mean? It was all happening like this was a war room or something, and he's negotiating peace or something, or about, and,
Right.
and then he goes, this is going to happen, but I'm not going to announce it. It was like a day or two later. This is going to happen. Wait for your agents or your manager to send you the contract, but don't announce anything because we're going to let Shannon announce it, right? So Shannon contacts us and say, okay, everybody, I want you to make a little video that says we're back, and so we all waited for Shannon to edit this thing. We're all like, like gripping it. Like this is all like days, a day, like within days, and
Wow.
it was just like your world can change dramatically within just days, because it was bleak, right?
Right.
We were in a pandemic. There was no auditions. We weren't, I mean, like I was lucky that I got offered two things out of the blue, but like nobody was auditioning, nobody was filming. It's a pandemic, and like a lot of people were like, I think my acting career is over. You
Wow.
know, what are we gonna do after this? Is the industry gonna come back? But it did. It did, and here we are. So it's a fucking miracle. That's for you, Vic. That was for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh, Perry, thank you so much for spending. I know you got to get to. I know you got to get to some other press. So thank you so much. Bigger press than we are, but
Hey, you're big, dude. You are big.
no, we're not. We're so small time, and we can't thank you enough for this. I cannot wait to watch Warriors season 3. Perry, man, there's so many people that we get to talk to that I get to talk to that I never thought, but there's very few people that I get to talk to who I outwardly respect, like I do for you. And it's not just because you're Father June. In fact, if you were like Father June, I'd probably be scared of you. But but it's everything else that you do with your family, with your son, with your wife. I love the picture of you in makeup and a skirt playing bass. It's one of my favorite, and I'm not saying it to make fun of you at all. I'm saying because it's mad respect for what you do. And thank you so much for being you, and thank you so much for giving us the time that you do.
Hey, Vic, thank you for doing what you do because without you, we wouldn't have as much of a forum, you know.
Anytime you want to come back, you have an open invitation. I would love to get everyone on Warrior at some point, but I know that's not going to happen. And I'm so happy that Father June is a friend of our show. Thank you so much, Perry.
I'm blessed to know you guys. Thank you, Vic.
I'm going to end this recording. Thank you so much for coming on again, Perry. And that was Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm Vic.
I'm Perry Young. You may know me as Warrior. I'm sorry. I'm Perry Young. Some of you know me as Father Jun Warrior, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on Chew on This.